It's my favorite segment of the week. It is the Steelers Talk Mailbag here in Week 6 as this team prepares to take on the Cleveland Browns in a game here where the Steelers can improve to 4-1 if they can take care of business at home on Sunday afternoon. You guys always bring the heat here on these mailbags, and if you want to get a question on a future edition of the Steelers Talk Mailbag, we film these mailbags on our Thursday live shows, which usually start at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you guys join us this week and every week here, and you guys can get your questions on the show for free, and you can get your voice on this platform here with almost 100,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to get your questions on our show and have your questions be viewed by thousands of people every single week, and you want to chop it up and talk Steelers football with us every single week on our live shows, make sure you click that subscribe button to join the most interactive Steelers fan community anywhere here on the YouTube platform. We'll start here with Isaac Flam. Good to see you, Isaac. Says, do you think the Ravens will make the playoffs? Hopefully not. I'll say this, Isaac. I don't think they're going to beat the Rams this weekend, which means they're going to start the season 1-5. Then they've got a bye in Week 7. Then from Week 8 on, that's the start of your season, usually they're going to have to be elite down the stretch, plain and simply. They really only can lose 2 games the rest of the season if they want a good chance to make the playoffs. And they would have 11 games left on the schedule, so they would have to go 9-2. All right, that is an elite record. That is like no room for error for the Baltimore Ravens, and they would have to be like the Super Bowl caliber team that we all expected them to be heading into the year during that 11-game stretch. Is that theoretically possible? Yes, they've got Lamar Jackson. They've got Derrick Henry. If those two guys can stay healthy, that offense is going to be, somewhat productive, right? Then on defense, they're going to have to figure something out because their pass rush is non-existent. They're getting bullied up front. They're giving up a league-high 35-plus points per game. And by the way, that's including all these weeks that they had Roquan Smith and they had Kyle Hamilton and they had all these guys in the lineup, and they just weren't playing good defense. So, they're going to have to change it, and they're going to change it fast, all right? If they don't, then the bar for the Pittsburgh Steelers to clear to win this division is going to be extremely low. Hell, the Steelers might even be able to win 8 or 9 games and have a chance to win the division this year if the Ravens can't turn around their season. Then we got one from Eugene Payne. Says, Jack, I heard they might make Gainwell RB1. Do you think that's a possibility? No, it's not. Steelers love Jaylen Warren, and, I think people that don't watch the film and don't, spend all the time with the analytics and all that stuff like we do here on Steelers Talk. And by the way, not everybody needs to, all right? Like there's a reason why, I get paid to do that. It's because it's pretty boring work. But the analytics say that Jaylen Warren is doing an awesome job making guys miss, great job getting yards after contact, and making the most of the opportunities that he's been given. And if Jaylen would have played in that Minnesota Vikings game in Ireland, I think he would have had 150 or more rushing yards in that game. Kenny Gainwell had a very good game. He had 99 yards in that game rushing. He had a very good game, and I think he's a good number 2 running back. But Jaylen Warren has a different ability to make guys miss with his cutting ability and his spin moves and his vision and his contact balance. And then it's not just what he brings to the table on the ground, but it's also his ability to catch passes and his ability to pass protect. Like, Jaylen Warren, in my opinion, is one of the best running backs in football. All right, and I think that the analytics have bared that out on him for not just this season, but a number of seasons before. He's been the best running back on the Steelers roster for a very long time. They finally made him RB1 this year. And, I think that, Kenny Gainwell, I'm happy he's here. He's RB2 for now before Caleb Johnson, I think, eventually takes that spot by the end of the season. And I think by the end of the year, we might see almost a more true committee with 3 running backs getting some of the carries. But Jaylen Warren is the premier back in this backfield right now. And I'm excited to see what he does now that he's back healthy. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What is the confidence level in the Steelers running back room right now? Put it on a scale of 1, meaning not confident at all, to 10, meaning this is a great running back trio. I love it. I love where this room is at. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. For today's pinned question, YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know your confidence level in the Steelers running back room. Then we got one from MJ here. Says, what is the severity of Ramsey's injury? It sounds like it's a hamstring strain of some degree. Now, the fact that Ramsey was able to come back into the game against the Vikings, the fact that he is stretching with the team before practice this week, and the fact that Mike Tomlin has left the door open to him to play this week, or at least he did in his press conference earlier in the week tells me that this is not something that's going to put him on IR or out for like a month or anything like that. I would guess it keeps him out for this week's game versus Cleveland. Again, by the time this comes out, it'll probably come out on Saturday. This video will. I'm guessing he's already been designated as out by this point. So I don't think he plays versus Cleveland. And then on a short week, I don't think he plays versus Cincinnati. But then you get kind of like a mini bye week there in preparation for Sunday Night Football versus the Green Bay Packers. I think he'll be back for that game. That's my prediction at this point. Then we got $5 from Chase. Who says, I've seen rumors around the Achane trade. If that would happen, does that eliminate Caleb's chances of being a featured back in Pittsburgh in the future? Listen, man, I don't think it's going to happen. I know that one publication put out there on a list of potential Achane destinations that the Steelers were included, but that's not with any league sourcing or anything like that. And frankly, I think that publication, PFSN, just doesn't understand the Steelers roster needs. Like we talked about with Jaylen Warren, I think they really like him as a number one running back. I think they like Kenny Gainwell as their number two back. And then they still do believe in Caleb Johnson in the long-term future for him. So I just don't think that there's anywhere for a De'Von Achane to fit in here, especially because the Steelers are pretty precious with their draft picks and their draft capital for next year's draft. So I think if they spend a draft pick on a player, it's going to be more like a receiver, maybe a left tackle if they really feel like they need to replace Broderick, but not on a running back unless there's a major injury. Now, before we get into the rest of the questions here on the Steelers Talk mailbag here today, you and I make decisions every single day, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Football season is finally here, and you better believe I'll be getting my Prize Picks lineups in all season long. Prize Picks is simple to play. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks also puts their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. A new feature from Prize Picks that I absolutely love is injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks will not count that as a loss. So download the app today. It is free to do so on your phone right now, and simply use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on the free Prize Picks app today. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Question coming in here from my man Kevin Reed says, with Highsmith coming back, do you think him or Herbig will have more pressures/sacks in the game? I don't know exactly what Highsmith's snap count is going to look like. Mike Tomlin at the beginning of the week here made it seem like he's going to be on a snap count, and we're going to see plenty of Nick Herbig here in week 6. So if I have to guess right now, I would go Nick Herbig. All right, over the course of the season, from here on out, I would say Highsmith probably has the greater opportunity because I do think he gets slightly more snaps than Herbig down the stretch. He's the one making the money, so you know how that usually goes. Unless Highsmith is not productive, I just don't see Herbig replacing him as the full-time starter opposite of T.J. Watt, at least not right now. However you phrase that question there, Kevin, I think Herbig will have the better chance to have more sacks this week. But honestly, guys, sacks is a very volatile stat. It's a lot of stuff. Lots of variables go into it. Pressure, pressure from other areas, how long the quarterback is holding onto the football. Sacks are one of the most uncontrollable things that edge rushers and defensive tackles really have. It's really, a lot of it is luck and circumstance. So same thing goes for interceptions. And you have to really approach these kind of stats with a lot of context. But if I'm guessing right now, I would have to guess Herbig. Then we got one from Greg Bryant. My man Greg says, you think Aaron Rodgers will play next season for us? Here's how I think that would happen, Greg. I think if the Steelers have a good football team this year, Rodgers is playing well, the offense plays relatively well, and they can get to the playoffs, and they feel like they have a legitimate shot with this group to win a Super Bowl. But they don't do it. I think in that scenario, and by the way, that scenario is fairly likely at this point, in my opinion, I'd say. I think the chances Rodgers comes back are pretty good. I think that he's developing a lot of relationships with people in the Steelers locker room right now. Cam Hayward only has 2 years left before he retires this year and next. I think if he goes into next offseason, he feels like he can still play, and he feels like he can help his buddy Cam Hayward, a fellow team captain, try and win a Super Bowl next year. I think he'd come back for another season. Also, it would provide the Steelers an opportunity to draft a very talented but maybe rough around the edges quarterback in round 1. Maybe someone like a John Mateer, or maybe Lenora Sellers falls in the draft out of the top 10. You can trade up for him. You can take somebody with a lot of talent but maybe needs a year to develop, as opposed to having to draft somebody that would be somewhat ready to play right away. Honestly, I'm a believer in sitting your rookie quarterbacks behind a veteran and have them learn and not have so much pressure on them in their first ever NFL experience. I mean, there's a lot of things rookies have to deal with, man. They have to learn a new playbook. They have to move to a new city. They have to adjust to new kind of concepts that they don't see in college. They have to adjust to a different speed of the game. It's just a lot to ask a rookie to go in there cold off of a college kind of experience and become a good pro quarterback right away. And like this Steelers team, like if they keep this kind of core together with TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, all these guys, Alex Highsmith, they bring all these guys back, like this team will still be built to win now. So I think it makes a lot of sense for Rodgers to come back for another season. Obviously, he's non-committal to that. He only signed a 1-year deal. But I think that the chances of him coming back, barring a collapse at the end of the season or a legit Super Bowl win, I just don't see I think Aaron Rodgers has a pretty decent chance of returning to the Steelers next year. So now, before we get to the rest of the questions here today, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you are a real one. It really does help us out here because it boosts the YouTube algorithm, which puts our videos in front of new audiences and helps us get new eyeballs, which leads to new subscribers. So if you're already subscribed to the channel, the best way you can help us out is click that thumbs up icon. So now we got another question coming in here from Brands Turich, who says we should get Waddle from the Dolphins. Unfortunately, Bands, I don't think Waddle's even available. He's only 26 years old, and he still is under contract through the 2028 season. So that's this year, 2026, 2027, and 2028. So the next 4 years, he's under contract. And he's not like a nutcase and like a head case that the Dolphins want to unload. Like, he is a building block for a future rebuild there in Miami. Former first-round pick. I just don't see any scenario where they want to let him go. Now, Tyreek Hill would have been a different situation. Not only does he have scarred relationships inside that building, but he's an older veteran with a lot of money on his contract, yada, 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 and he's going to be wanting another contract re-up coming up soon, at least before his injury. That would have been the case. Jaylen Waddle is kind of like the untouchable weapon on that Dolphins team, in my opinion. So, unfortunately, I know you probably want Waddle. He's fast. He's very good. But that's exactly why the Miami Dolphins are going to want to keep him. Then we got one from my man Sam Pugh, the original Black Diamond here. Says, I don't see the value of a first-round QB this year the way they are playing, but maybe a deep enough class for a second-round pick option, left tackle, wide receiver, or safety if the better player is there. And listen, man, I still think 4 to 6 quarterbacks, Sam, are going to go in the first round. All right, I know that not a lot of the guys that were expected to go round 1 this year are playing. They're not playing all that well. Arch Manning, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, all of them are underperforming. But if you've been watching college football, there's a lot of guys that are overperforming as well. Dante Moore from Oregon, Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, Ty Simpson from Alabama, Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. There's a lot of interesting possibilities for the Steelers. And you still have Lenora Sellers, who could potentially come out this year, and he would be a first-round pick. So I think at the end of the day here, guys, we're still going to be looking at a draft class with 4 to 6 first-round caliber quarterbacks going into the draft. And I think that the Steelers have specifically set up this next year's draft to take their quarterback of the future. Not only because, at best you're bringing back an older Aaron Rodgers and you get, at best, one more season out of him if he comes back for another year, and you need a long-term answer at the position. But also, like, this draft is in Pittsburgh. I mean, they are very conscious about the idea of drafting the future franchise quarterback in front of the home fans on that stage, all right? So they're very cognizant of that. That's why they have been loading up on these draft picks. I think they're going to be willing to trade 2027's first-round pick if they find the right guy. And if they identify that guy that they really want, they're going to go get him. All right, and, I think it's actually the ideal setup to have 1 year of Aaron Rodgers where you can tutor a really high-end talent at the quarterback position and allow that backup quarterback, that rookie quarterback, to just sit and learn for a year, and then you trot him out the following season with a lot of confidence, and it's his team. And I think that's the right way to do things, and the Steelers have an opportunity to do it that way. So personally, if you have an opportunity to get a guy that you believe is a franchise quarterback, you can get, wide receiver or safety later in the draft, all right? Left tackle might be a little bit more difficult, but you could address that in free agency as well. So I'm not saying that those positions that you mentioned, Sam, are positions that they shouldn't address, but getting the quarterback right is absolutely integral to the next decade plus here in Pittsburgh. And if you don't get that right, it's not going to work out well for this football team, all right? It's going to lead to a lot of mediocrity at best. And if you want to be a team like the Chiefs, like the Bills, like the Eagles, like the Rams, these teams that are consistently putting themselves in Super Bowl contention, you got to have a high-end quarterback that is consistently available for you. So you got to do that through the draft usually. And I think having Rodgers come back for another year and tutor that young quarterback is the ideal setup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Perfectly cool if you disagree, but that's the way that I kind of view this kind of situation. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Who are you hoping the Steelers trade for before the trade deadline this year? Is there a wide receiver that you particularly like? Is there? Do you want them to replace Broderick Jones? Do you want them to go out and get a defensive tackle of some sort? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. For me, I would love if this team would add a receiver like maybe a Jacoby Myers or a Chris Olave. All right, that'll be it for this week's mailbag, guys. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions this week. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Till next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.